The interim national chairman of the African Democratic Congress, Senator David Mark, insists the party has no preferred presidential candidate for the 2027 presidential election. The former president of the Senate made this known during a meeting with the Kogi State chapter of the ADC in Abuja on Tuesday, where he also said all members of the party are equal stakeholders, equal joiners and equal owners. Now, during the meeting, the National Legal Support Group for the ADC, led by Mohammed Sharif, alleged that the names of non-ADC members were being used to file a suit against the party and its interim leadership. He alleged that the names being used to file the suit were neither in the ADC's physical or digital registers in Kogi and Nasarawa states. Now, Sheriff expressed the group's readiness to represent the ADC in the court, stating that no fewer than 97 lawyers had indicated their preparedness to represent the party.
And the African Democratic Congress says Nigeria's exclusion from the White House trade talks by U.S. President Donald Trump could be traced to the presumed economic failure of President Bola Tinubu's government. ADC spokesperson Bolaji Abdullahi says the nation under the All Progressives Congress has degenerated from its leading position in the continent to being left out entirely. Well, the opposition coalition spokesperson in a statement expresses grave concern over the decision of the United States government to host the president of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal for high-level commercial talks at the White House on Wednesday without extending an invitation to Nigeria.
All right, for more insights into the issue of Nigeria's exclusion from the White House trade talks by U.S. President Donald Trump and the allegation that the federal government is working to destabilize the opposition coalition ahead of the 2027 elections and other issues, we're now being joined by Bolaji Abdullahi, a former minister and interim national publicity secretary of the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. Good to see you. Okay, let's really start from the issue that the ADC has raised about the White House's, exemption of Nigeria, or the failure of Nigeria to actually show at the table where you say it matters. What do you say this is indicative of? And of course, the interference by the APC in the coalition or opposition.
Well, thank you very much. Like our statement has said, it's an embarrassment to all Nigerians that our country that used to provide leadership on the African continent in all respects, if you recall in the 70s and the 80s, as a matter of fact, quite recently, as recent as when President Clinton was the president of the United States, it's almost inconceivable that this kind of meeting will be holding, which starts tomorrow, and Nigeria, the largest economy on the African continent, will not be in the room. For us, it's a reflection of how lowly the country like United States rates Nigeria. Over the years, in the last 10, 20 years, we've always argued that Africa should be engaged on the basis of trade and not aid. Now, there is a president in the United States, we don't quite agree with everything he's doing, but who appears ready to engage Africa on the basis of trade, on the basis of mutual benefits. But it pains us as citizens of this country that when that time arrived now, Nigeria is not in the room, Nigeria is not at the table. And it's even more painful that the explanation given by the United States, that the parameters is that they've invited countries that appear more irresponsive and willing to help themselves. That's an indictment, a direct indictment on the present administration, that they have projected Nigeria as a country that is not willing, as a government that's not willing to help its own people. So for us, it's an embarrassment, and we when we talk about rescuing this country, that's exactly what they have in mind, to present an alternative to the people of Nigeria that can represent them at the global stage as they deserve to be represented.
Now, to the second leg of the question, if I may just reiterate, Mr. Abdullahi, you're alleging that some individuals in the federal government are trying to destabilize the ADC. Can you clarify who these individuals are and what exactly do you believe their motive is?
We know them, but we deliberately left their names out because we have credible intelligence within the government that some senior officials of government invited our party chairman in the Northwest first. Then they followed it with invitation to party chairmen from the Northeast. The intention, obviously, is to begin to incite them to foment trouble within the party. And you could see what happened by this morning. Some fictitious individuals have been cranked up from nowhere to go to court, claiming that our appointment as interim executive was not legitimate, was not according to the law of the party, and that we have done what they call a hostile takeover. So it's part of, but it's consistent with the style of this APC government, that what they desire, what they want to see is a Nigeria where no opposition party can survive. They've done it to PDP, they've done it to Labour Party, they've done it to SDP, they've done it to NNDP, and this, ironically, is what has led to the coalition that now presents the only credible alternative to Nigeria. And that is why we are saying that this government needs to be careful. They need to understand that democracy is about options. Democracy is about alternatives. When you don't leave people with options, and when you don't leave them with alternatives, then you can't call that democracy anymore. And that's why we reminded them that when President Goodluck Jonathan, in 2015, if President Goodluck Jonathan had come out and tried to destroy the opposition completely like they are trying to do, President Bola Tinubu will not be president of Nigeria today and APC will not have come to power. So what we are saying is that in the interest of democracy of this country, they should allow opposition parties to survive. They should allow opposition to breathe. In 2027, they should tell Nigerians why Nigerians should vote for them again. If they convince Nigerians, Nigerians should go and vote for them. If they are not able to convince Nigerians, Nigerians should turn around and see options for them. And that's why we are saying we are very clear. We know what we are saying. We are not just making allegations. We know that their hands are in all the crises in all the opposition's party. And now the same hands are now being poked into the coalition since we emerged to their utter dismay last Wednesday.
Mr. Abdullahi, I've been trying to butt in here. You say you know them, but you're not mentioning their names. Nigerians will be wondering, why are you leaving out the names? Is it for fear of what exactly it is?
It's strategic. No. It's not for fear.
Who are these people?
Strategic.
Are they in the presidency? Are they in the APC? And you mentioned fictitious lawsuits. Mr. Abdullahi, hold on a moment.
Presidency.
Hold on a moment.
Okay.
You also mentioned the lawsuit that has been instituted. But they are saying that
yes.
Your appointment as interim leadership of the party is not known to their party constitution because you are not even members of the ADC. Some of those who have joined the ADC maintain they remain in their respective parties, such as Peter Obi says he remains in the Labour Party, but is part of the ADC. How does that work? And then why have you refused to mention the names of these people you make such allegations against?
If it becomes necessary, we don't think it's necessary at this moment. And that's why I say our decision not to mention their names yet is strategic. Not because we are afraid, not because we don't have our information, but we know why we are keeping their names now. At the appropriate time, Nigerians will know exactly the people who are involved in this insidious act of destabilizing the opposition. That is one. Two, on the allegation that our appointment was not properly carried out, that's not true. They have gone to court, and we will meet them in court. We are very sure we are on solid legal footing. You mentioned Peter Obi still in Labour Party. Peter Obi is not holding any position within the coalition rank or the African Democratic Congress. The decision to allow people like Peter Obi, like Nasir El-Rufai, and the rest of them to remain in their legacy party for now is because they have followers who have obtained forms to contest elections in one by-election or another. Because they have obtained forms to contest election in those legacy parties, they can't possibly change and begin to, at this later date, to contest election on the platform of ADC. So it's a kind of compromise position, but it is obvious that they are fully with the coalition. And at the appropriate time when those elections were done, they will enroll in the African Democratic Congress. Then for us who are holding appointment, we are members of the African Democratic Congress, and like I said, for all the issues that have been raised, we are on solid legal footing, and we don't have any concern at all. We have looked at the names of those individuals who are purported to have gone to court, and we could not find their names in the register of the party, either in Kogi or Nasarawa State, like our statement has said. You know, so we are not worried about this. What we want to do, we want to provide alternatives to Nigerians. We want APC government, the ruling APC government, to engage us on the basis of the issues that we are raising, not to go into dark corners and begin to push out people to destabilize the opposition party. If they are ready to debate the poverty in the country, the inflation rate in the country that has never been seen in the last 28 years, we will be ready to debate them.
Your point very clearly, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi. Is it not too early to be crying wolf? I mean, is it not defeatist when you're already complaining that there are attempts by the governing party to infiltrate the coalition? Very quickly.
I'm surprised you call it I'm surprised you call it, you describe it in those terms that we're shouting wolf. We're not shouting wolf. We're just alerting Nigerians that the same activities of government that have led to the destruction of other opposition parties is now being directed towards our party. How is that baseless? How is that crying wolf? I mean, the government control has the capacity to do that. They've demonstrated it, you know, so.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Bolaji Abdullahi is former minister and interim national publicity secretary of the African Democratic Congress, ADC.